Hey, how's it going guys? This is Fuad. In this video, I'll give you some tips and ideas on when to start hand feeding your baby parrot. Now, this is something people have been recently commenting on my other videos about when exactly do you want to start hand feeding your little baby bird. Now, just generally speaking, the earlier you start hand feeding the bird, the more friendlier it will be when it grows up. However, not as early as 12 hours after it hatches should you start hand feeding the bird. Because at that particular stage, that bird is really premature and its bones are barely strong enough for you to actually, use your hands and handle the birds and start hand feeding them. Their crop area is also underdeveloped and you would not understand how much you should feed it. Now, the crop is basically that stomach area which is right under the neck of the bird, and at that particular stage it's really hard for you to know how much you need to feed. Assuming that you have removed the bird 12 hours after it hatched, you need to use your syringe and feed it 1 drop of water, nothing more than that. 1 drop of very slightly warm water. And then you can repeat this step after another hour. Once the baby chick is around 4 days to a week old, you can start including the hand feeding formula. Again, make sure to take slightly warm water in a cup and mix a little bit of the hand feeding formula. When it is about a week old, you need to feed it every 2 hours. Starting from 6 a.m., feed it every 2 hours until 12 a.m. So if you want to know how to hand feed your bird, visit the description box. I have a separate video on how to hand feed your baby bird. Determining when the baby is hungry is pretty easy. It's going to cry. Now, just like a baby human being, the baby bird is also going to cry. Well, cry may not be the right word, but it's going to make sounds. When it's with the parents, you may have heard that baby sounds that they make. Well, if it is after 12 a.m., you never know at what particular time it's crying, and that's when you need to hand feed the bird. Now, let's say your baby bird has grown up to somewhere around 1 week to 2 weeks old. And that particular time, you need to feed the bird every 2 to 3 hours, starting from 6 a.m. until 12 a.m. If the baby bird is kept well, warm, and comfortable, you can eliminate the midnight snacks. Once the baby bird is about 2 to 3 weeks old, this is the safest time to start hand feeding. This is because the bird has grown some feathers and it's gonna be a bit more easier for you to handle as its bones are more developed, and you can also check how much the bird needs to eat. How do you know if your bird is full? Just check the crop and it's gonna be a bit more easier to determine how much it needs to eat. Until the bird is 3 weeks old, you need to feed it every 4 hours. Now, initially, if you remember, I mentioned that you need to feed just 1 drop of water when it's less than a day old, but as the bird grows up, you need to increase the thickness of the formula, and that's gonna help them eat better. Many people ask if it is okay to prepare a lot of hand feeding formula at once, refrigerate it, take it out, feed it, refrigerate it, repeat and repeat. Well, this is not a good idea, but you may do so when you have a short period of time. As you refrigerate the formula, it hardens, and to soften it back again, you need to pour some warm water. By doing this, the formula gets back to its consistency, but the concentration decreases. And as the concentration of the food decreases, your bird's not going to enjoy the meal. But when you are keeping this hand feeding formula in the refrigerator, be sure to cover it well. Right now, you may be thinking, where do you keep the bird? You can cut out a small piece of a cardboard cubic box, and you can keep a rug or a cloth inside to keep comfortable. But now, when the bird is about 3 to 4 weeks old, you can start transferring it in a small cage. However, the feeding style is definitely going to alter. As the bird grows up, you will need to make sure to feed it even more because it's going to consume more. And as you prepare the bird food, as time passes by, the formula gets thicker and thicker, and as a result, it hardens. So you will need to dilute that formula by increasing some water. Now, let's say your bird has grown 5 to 6 weeks old, and this is the time you need to feed it only twice a day. One thing you have to keep in mind, you have to start introducing new food to the bird. How do you do it? You start sprinkling some seeds on the floor, and the bird's gonna move around, it's gonna search for its surroundings, and eventually it'll gradually learn how to eat. Why is this step so important? If you keep hand feeding for a long period of time, your bird is gonna be spoiled. In other words, it's not gonna want to eat by its own and it's only going to depend on you so that you start hand feeding it regularly. You want to put on low perches and a bowl of water and a bowl of seeds. When the baby bird is at the stage when it's learning new things to eat, be sure to introduce the daily essentials and the highly nutritious food that are required when it grows up. These essentials include a lot of vegetables, fruits, pellets, and so on. You have to be very careful with one thing. You have to be sure if the bird can actually eat the food, because sometimes I see that the birds, they chew the food, they chew the seeds, but they don't necessarily consume them. So you have to check the crop and make sure they're actually eating. Now let's talk about long-term situations. Even if you have trained the bird ever since it was really small, chances are that it can get unfriendly. If the bird happens to spend time with other birds, other unfriendly and untamed birds, there are chances are that the bird will not want to stay with you because it may be enjoying with the other parrots. To maintain the friendliness with your bird, keep it individually, separately in a different cage, and be sure to give it countless hours of playtime. So this is it for today, guys. I gave you a brief idea about the routine that you need to maintain to raise your baby bird. If you have any comments or any questions, feel free to share them in the comment sections below. So good luck in raising your baby bird, and I'll see you guys next time.